but I will like share with you in terms of how I see in terms of evaluating the research ideas as a reviewer, as an author, and we probably all have a lot of good research ideas. And my personal experience is, I base upon this criteria to kill or pursue ideas I may have. Um, so my understanding, good research ideas need to meet three criteria: novelty, relevance, and doable. Um, all of them very important. So what do I mean by novelty? Novelty means counterintuitive and provoking. So counterintuitive, and we all know what counterintuitive means. It's just contrary what we expect. And to just give you an example, if existing literature, let's say, take over defense provisions, if existing literature all talk about take over defense provisions resulting in managerial entrenchment can harm a firm's governance, well, anything has two sides. So if there are a lot of research showing that takeover defense provisions can harm governance, well, perhaps under some circumstances, takeover defense provision, the protection for managers can actually be beneficial for the firm. So if you can identify a dependent variable or research idea, show that takeover defense provisions can help a company in some circumstances, and then I think that's very, very counterintuitive. So counterintuitive means you also need grounded in literature. You have to know the literature. For instance, from takeover defense provision example, you need to know literature well enough in the sense that say, okay, what dependent variable I look at so I can tell counterintuitive story, right? And then for provoking, what I mean is leading people to think. It's not that straightforward. We need to spend a little bit of time think about whether the idea, okay, whether it's not, it's makes sense. And provoking also means the idea is very bold and can make significant contributions and can move direction in conversations. For instance, the example I just gave, so if you have some findings to show takeover defense provisions can actually help company in some circumstances, then, well, you're moving direction of research on takeover defense provisions. You're identifying a new maxim, in terms of understanding how takeover defense provisions can influence managerial decisions. And so bold is really, you need to move direction in conversations. Then novelty, also I will highlight interesting is not enough. Just novel, there are a lot of novel ideas, interesting ideas, but need to be practical and need to be situated in literature so that you can empirically test the idea. The second criteria is relevance. Relevance to literature and relevance to practice. Relevance to literature, what I mean is that there's broad research on the topic. If there's only 1 or 2 papers on that topic, well, maybe you cannot find reviewers who appreciate your study, right? Well, for sure, for any paper, you can frame the paper either from the independent variable or dependent variable. So there are 2 streams of literature you can frame a paper. The relevance can be relevant to independent construct you're studying in your study or dependent construct you're studying in a study, but it has to be relevant to one of those 2. And the relevance to practice means that it's hot topics and there are some practitioner implications. And the last criteria in terms of how I evaluate research idea doable. There are data available and you can easily implement the research idea. For sure, you need to collect some data, but if you need to collect every variable, that probably takes a very long time. And I really don't recommend for doctoral students and for junior scholars, because if it takes 2 years for you to collect data, you think about how many years you need to spend on the project, right? And so doable is, I would say, is very important. You need willing to collect data, but collecting data, if it takes 2 years, Well, for junior scholars, I personally do recommend. Um, so this is my assessment of in terms of what is a good research idea, novelty, relevance, and doable.